What's going on YouTube, Static here, and welcome to Black Aperture R&D. Before I get started on the tutorial, let me just explain briefly what Black Aperture R&D actually is. Essentially, it's just an offshoot of my Black Aperture series, and it'll be a collection of tutorials specific to creations that I've shown you in Black Aperture. So, now that that's out of the way, today's tutorial is going to be on this little device that you see in front of me here. And what this is it's basically just a player detector, and it's what I referred to in episode 2 of Black Aperture as a proxy. So you can tell at the moment by the redstone lamps on top of the device that the thing's currently turned off. However, if we flick this lever on the front, those lights turn on, and so does the detection. And you can see if we get close enough to the device, that minecart starts spinning around the track and triggering the signal down the bottom. If we move far enough away though, the thing turns off after a little while. And so this can be used to detect when players get close to a specific area. So if you want to open a door automatically once a player gets close, or if you want to turn on lighting, that kind of thing. Now, player detection in Minecraft isn't a new thing. Devices like this are all over YouTube. However, the advantages that this particular design has over the others is that, as you can see, it's very compact. It's much more compact than the other designs out there. The dimensions for this design are 9 tall by 4 wide by 4 deep, but that includes the base down the bottom here. And the base is basically just to hold the redstone on top of it. So obviously, if you're digging this into a wall somewhere, the ground's already going to be there. So I'd be just counting the top 8 layers, but strictly speaking it is 9 tall. Another advantage is that a lot of the other designs around on YouTube use fire to create the particles that set off the pressure plate. As you can see, this design uses iron golems. When the iron golems are close enough together, you see they create these particles on the ground which can set off the particle detector there. And the good thing about this design is it only requires 4 iron golems to have relatively decent sensitivity. If you want a more sensitive proxy, you can add more iron golems, or if you don't care too much about the sensitivity, you can add less. This design will work with as few as 2 iron golems. Alrighty, so to build your very own proxy, here's what you're going to need. You'll need a building block of some sort. Here in Black Aperture I like to use iron blocks. You'll need your 3 basic redstone components. You'll need your 3 different types of rail. You'll also need a pumpkin and a fence gate, minecart of course, and a lever. Now optionally you can also use redstone lamps, however the redstone lamps aren't 100% necessary. If you don't intend to turn this thing off, you don't need them, and if you plan on hiding this thing in a wall somewhere, you also don't need them. You only need the redstone lamps if you want to see from a distance whether your proxy is turned on or off. Now the proxy is built in 2 parts. The first part is this top half here, which is our player detection portion. The problem is that player detection, if we switch this on, you'll see it pulses. Every now and then the minecart will stop before it gets sent off again. Now, because we want a constant signal, not a constantly blinking signal, we need to also lengthen the signal that we get from this detector rail. And so that's what this bottom portion is here. Now, the good thing about the design that I've used for the signal lengthening down the bottom is that you do get 2 options for what kind of current you want to take out. If you do want to take out a blinking current, you can just take out from this top one here, and if you want a stable current, you can take out from the bottom output here. Okay, so the first part that we're going to be building is the top part here, so the particle or player detection. Simply because that's the way I like to start. It sort of gives you an idea for where everything else is going to be. Of course, if you want to build from the bottom up, pretty simple, just watch the tutorial and then build the thing in reverse. So what you want to do to start off is you want to build a column up 5 blocks. Now, of course, remember that this bottom block here is our ground. Its sole purpose is to support the redstone, so if you're just building this on level ground, don't worry about that bottom block and instead just build up 4 blocks. Now at our top block here, this is where the iron golems are going to be standing, and they're going to be standing on a 4x4 platform, so we want to make that really quickly. Okay, now our iron golems are going to be standing in this middle 2x2 area of the platform, and around the outside we're going to have a minecart track which is going to form our particle detection. And so to make the particle detector, what you want to do is place 2 blocks here in that corner like so. You want to place a normal rail on that block. In front of it you want to place a powered rail, and then in front of that you want to place a detector rail. Now from here on out, all you need to do with the tracks is place normal tracks in all of the corners and powered rail everywhere else. Okay, so once we've got this, what we're going to do to power our powered rails without disturbing the iron golems in the center is place one redstone torch in this corner here, which will power those two sections. Place a lever on this block and turn it on. That will power those two sections there. Very simple. Now, once you've got this, we're going to place our fence gate before we forget. So bonk that out, place a block there, place our fence gate, and then replace the detector rail. Unfortunately, we can't place the fence gate right on top of the detector rail without putting that block there first. Bit of a pain, but we're just going to have to deal with it. Now, once you've got that, what you want to do is place an iron block on top of this powered rail and an iron block on top of this powered rail. You don't necessarily need to do this. It just makes the design look a whole lot more closed in, which I think looks kind of cool, hides a lot of the innards. But as I said, you don't necessarily need these two blocks here. Once you've got this, just start making a case. And so this is what's going to be holding the iron golems in place. So you want to make one layer, then another layer, and then one more. So 3 layers high. Just like so. Now, before we put our iron golems into here, we're going to quickly chuck a redstone torch on this iron block just above the fence gate. Now, I'll get to why we do this later on. The reason we're doing this now, though, is because it gets kind of difficult to place things on this wall when you've got the iron golems in here. So now, once you've got this, you're right to put your iron golems into the thing. And so the way that I tend to do this is I'll make a T-shape hovering over the gap like so, and then do the same thing on the other side. And then you can just make your iron golem, push him in, and make another one, push him in. Now, as I said, you can see that those iron golems, with just the two of them, are creating the particles. However, the more iron golems you put in there, the more particles they're going to create, which makes the design a lot more sensitive. So I like to put as a stock standard 4 iron golems into the system. As I've said, you can just put two in though if you'd like, if you're doing this in survival, for example, and you're low on resources. But if you're not, might as well put in as many as you can handle. So once you've got that, we're right to close the iron golems in. And so once we put our minecart on this powered rail, that's our player detection portion finished. So next we're going to get onto the signal lengthener. Okay, so to make the signal lengthener, we can first bonk out this little support structure here. We don't need it anymore. And we're going to be taking our output from this detector rail here. So you want to place 2 blocks underneath and then knock out that first block and place your redstone dust here. So anytime the player detector gets triggered, this redstone dust is going to receive signal. Now we want to lengthen this signal, so the way we're going to do that is you want to place a block in all 4 corners of the 4x4 structure like so, and then you can connect those up just like so with a layer underneath. And what we want to do is on all of these little extra sections here, we want to place repeaters. So coming out from this redstone wire, the redstone wire is going to send signal into this block, which we can then take out with repeaters, which we want to put on full delay. And again, that's going to power this block, which we can draw power out of using repeaters here. And same deal on this side. The only part of this layer where the signal is not going in this direction is this part here. We actually want to take the signal out from this wire and send it this way. And so once you've got this, what you want to do is place a block in all 4 corners of the 4x4 structure and then just knock out the block above them. And so once we've knocked out all these blocks, what we want to do is on every one of the tops of the blocks except for this one here, we want to place a piece of redstone dust. And so what this is going to do is when this piece of redstone dust gets a signal, it's going to send that signal around this loop, and the signal is going to be in the loop for 8 ticks per side. So there's 8 ticks in these 2 repeaters here, 8 ticks here, and 8 ticks here. And so what's going to happen is when this signal goes around, 8 ticks later, it's going to power this piece of redstone dust, 8 ticks after that, it'll power this redstone dust, and 8 ticks after that, it'll power this redstone dust. And so basically what we want to do now is we want to take signal from each of these blocks and converge it into one line. And so what that's going to do is lengthen the signal in the output line. So we place blocks down there like so, and one in front of this block over here. And so we're going to be taking power out of these blocks using repeaters. So you want to place those down there. Doesn't really matter too much if these ones are on delay. For peace of mind, I like to set them on the 4th tick as well, just because I'm a little bit pedantic like that. And so what you want to do to get signal from these repeaters to the line that this last repeater is going to be powering, you want to place a block in front of those repeaters, just like so. And then we're going to connect all of these repeaters up with a single piece of redstone, a single redstone line. And so what's going to happen is when the machine first gets triggered, this repeater over here is going to power, which will power the line. Then this repeater will get powered, which will power the same line, and then this repeater will get powered, which again will power the same line. So that's how our signal gets lengthened. Once this is done, that's essentially your proxy finished. All you might want to do, as I like to do, is just fill in these unneeded spaces. Just makes the design look a whole heap cleaner, I think. And in here as well. Oops. Just like so. Although at this stage your proxy is finished, I personally like to add an on-off switch coupled with on-off display. And so to do that, all you want to do is just above this fence gate, you place a lever, and this lever is going to do two things. First thing it's going to do is constantly keep this fence gate open, which will allow the minecart to travel around the track freely, which will mean that you don't get that open and close noise from the fence gate, which can be kind of annoying. So I like to turn that off if you don't need player detection. It'll also turn off the torch on the back of this block, which you should remember we placed earlier. And so the torch underneath will be sending signal to this block. So when we have the proxy on, so with the fence gate closed, we want that to trigger our redstone lamps, which we're going to put in the corners, just like so. And we can do that very simply just by extending that signal out by 1, out this way, and out that way. And there you have it, there's our finished proxy. So all you need to do now, obviously, is place a minecart on the powered rail here, and your proxy will begin to detect you. Now, one issue you might find you have once you turn your proxy on is you might get the minecart going back and forwards like this. You don't want this to happen. The reason being is that if this minecart is continuously going back and forwards, only about half of the time is it pressing on the detector rail, and if the minecart's not pressing on the detector rail, it won't be triggered by the particles. So you want that minecart to be resting on this detector rail at all times unless it's been triggered and is going around the track. Now what causes the minecart to go back and forwards like this is that the iron golems are a little bit too far forward and their force field is bumping the minecart back. So all you need to do is get in nice and close like so and just punch the iron golems and get them into that back corner of the proxy. And so once you do that, you should notice that the minecart, if it doesn't get detected, will just stop on this detector rail. Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial. If you had, please do show that like button some love. It helps me a lot more than you guys might realize. I've been Static, and I'll catch you guys next time. What's going on YouTube, Static here, and welcome to Black Aperture R&D. Before I get started on the tutorial, let me just explain briefly what Black Aperture R&D actually is. Essentially, it's just an offshoot of my Black Aperture series, and it'll be a collection of tutorials specific to creations that I've shown you in Black Aperture. So, now that that's out of the way, today's tutorial is going to be on this little device that you see in front of me here. And what this is it's basically just a player detector, and it's what I referred to devices like this are all over YouTube. However, the advantages that this particular design has over the others is that, as you can see, it's very compact. It's much more compact than the other designs out there. The dimensions for this design are 9 tall by 4 wide by 4 deep, but that includes the base down the bottom here, and the base is triggering the signal down the bottom. If we move far enough away though, the thing turns off after a little while. And so this can be used to detect when players get close to a specific area. So if you want to open a door automatically once the player gets close, or if you want to turn on lighting, that kind of thing. Now, play detection in Minecraft isn't a new thing. In episode 2 of Black Aperture as a proxy. So you can tell at the moment by the redstone lamps on top of the device that the thing's currently turned off. However, if we flick this lever on the front, those lights turn on, and so does the detection. And you can see if we get close enough to the device, that minecart starts spinning around the track and triggering